It's almost 6:30. You're watching East Midlands Today.
Tonight, the clock is ticking. Private landlords in Nottingham have just 2 days to get licensed.
The scheme's aimed at making nightmare properties a thing of the past, but some letting agents have reservations.
The principles behind the scheme are good, but it's too far-fetched, it's too expensive. As a result, it's going to put rents up.
A very good evening to you. Welcome to Monday's programme with Anne Davis and me, Dominic Heel.
Good evening. Well, first tonight, the largest landlord licensing scheme outside London is to start this week in Nottingham.
The City Council says it'll raise standards, ensuring that rental homes are safe and comfortable. But with the scheme bringing in a potential £23 million, some property owners say it's just another way to make money.
Well, one landlord who has a number of rental properties is selling up, as Hannah Meredith reports.
Selective licensing has been around for almost a decade, but this Wednesday, August the 1st, the scheme will be introduced in Nottingham.
More and more people are renting privately, and we know from work that we already do that a number of the houses that people are renting are in a very poor condition, and we think it's right that everybody who rents, whether in a house in multiple occupation or an ordinary house, should expect a decent quality of home.
The council says residents in dire situations are unlikely to complain, and up until now they've been told of problems via tip-offs.
Not only have you got a considerable amount of mess, you've also got damp and mould throughout the kitchen, you've got live electrics within the kitchen, nowhere to store your food, and it's very treacherous for walking on that floor because the lath and plaster ceilings come down and all the nails within the wood are sticking up there, so it's absolutely treacherous.
Are you telling me someone was actually living in this situation?
Somebody were living in rooms associated with that kitchen, yes.
And it's these properties the council wants the scheme to tackle. The cost of a licence is £480 or £780 depending on accreditation, and each licence will last for 5 years. But with more than 30,000 homes in the city thought to fall into the scheme, that could bring in around £23 million for the council.
There's a considerable amount of cost, there's a considerable amount of people employed, a considerable amount of expenditure for this. So no, there is nothing that the City Council makes out of this scheme.
Landlord Anish doesn't see it that way.
It is a money-making scheme for the council. The council have said to tenants that it shouldn't result in rent increases, but we're just any other business. If we have to spend thousands of pounds, then we have to try and recoup that money from somewhere.
And some landlords are so upset they're selling up.
It's been touch and go for a while, but this has just been the straw that breaks the camel's back. We're put in the same bag as rogue landlords all the time, and we're good landlords. We look after our tenants, so I'm cross.
With only 20% of landlords having signed up to the scheme so far, the council says there could be fines of up to £30,000 for those who don't. Hannah Meredith, BBC East Midlands Today, Nottingham.
Well, our reporter Victoria Hicks is here now. Now, you've been talking to a tenant and a letting agent today. What have they said? What's their view?
Well, I've been talking to Lee Day, and he's been renting properties on and off for about 20 years in Loughborough, Leicester and in Nottingham. And in that time, he says he's had some dealings with some pretty bad landlords.
Over the years, I've had some quite mixed experiences. I've had some really good landlords, but I've had some terrible ones. Landlords that aren't prepared to do the repair jobs that you ask them to, water leaks, gas leaks, electric leaks. I've had some pretty slumlord people over the years. I think this scheme coming in is really good because it's going to protect a tenant, protect the landlord, and as long as it's not too much of a cost on the tenant, I think it's a really good idea.
So Lee's worried that this scheme could lead to more expensive rents, and as you heard in Hannah's report, that may very well be the case. His own letting agent says that in the short term it's going to be the landlords who are out of pocket, but in the longer term those extra costs will be passed on to tenants, and he says he's already starting to see rents rise here in Nottingham.
OK, thank you very much, Victoria.